Well, I'm Casey Aikens, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, the president's race begins to tighten, or is it all smoke and mirrors? Montgomery County leaders admit being perplexed by rising gang violence, and why are the political elites challenging Robin Ficker's term limit proposal in court? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by political consultant and business strategist Rich Parsons, Republican consultant Phil Bell, Republican National Committee woman Nicolee Ambrose, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. In a year where most Americans would conclude that this has been the strangest political race in presidential history, it should come as no surprise that opinion polls seem more like the weather. Wait a minute, and the polls will surely change just like the weather changes. And as the Labor Day holiday ended, Americans returned to work. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had a substantial lead over her rival businessman Donald Trump. Roughly 3 weeks later, according to a Quinnipiac University nationwide poll, Mr. Trump has cut that lead in half. And in the states-by-state contest, a Bloomberg Politics poll has Trump leading in Ohio by 5 percentage points, and a CNN ORC survey has Trump leading in Florida 50-46. But then came what many consider a major gaffe by the Democratic nominee when she was quoted as describing Trump supporters as deplorables. But what may have been the most damaging to the Clinton campaign was the release of an internet video of Mrs. Clinton collapsing while leaving a 9/11 memorial service. Even the Washington Post dared to run an editorial cartoon lampooning the Clinton campaign. Susan, will the health issues of Mrs. Clinton be soon forgotten, or are they going to last throughout the campaign?
It's not an issue. She had walking pneumonia. And, you know, to the best of us, I know people who are hung up for days. She's been working very hard on this campaign. And when Mrs. Clinton does an event, she starts out with having meetings before. She does rope lines and she does meetings after, as opposed to just coming on stage and not. It was over 80 degrees there. She'd been standing an hour and a half. And she is so committed, having worked so hard for the people of 9/11, that she felt she should be there and she shouldn't have been. But she's doing great now.
But Susan, if she had walking pneumonia, she's kissing children, she's getting close to all these people, it doesn't wash.
No,
it simply
pneumonia
doesn't wash.
does not communicate it by giving someone a kiss on the cheek.
Well,
give me a great break.
I mean, I think what Phil is suggesting is that you're being way too optimistic about the dismissal of the health concerns that Mrs. Clinton
You
had.
mean the Breitbart conspiracies? That's what we're talking about here. Mrs. Clinton is fine.
She is fine. She had a glorified cold, okay? I mean, she's fine. This is not an issue.
This isn't the first time that we've seen
Yes, it
that
is
she's
the
had
first
trouble
time. It is
going
the first
all the way
time.
back to 2012.
Oh, 2012.
With
You know what?
Donald
Trump released his big thing yesterday. Okay, his tests were back to 2013. So is that really current either?
Right.
This
Look,
is a
this
bunch
is a
of
made-up
malarkey.
issue.
If you're going to nominate somebody,
she's
don't
better.
just
Move on.
Rich, they make
Move
up
on.
issues. All right.
They do make up
All right, so we're going to
issues.
move on. Nicolee, despite the recent momentum, there are still many mainstream Republicans who are uneasy about the Trump candidacy, and is it likely to change?
Well, 3 points. First of all, the momentum is tremendously in Donald Trump's favor, which is fantastic, exactly where you'd want to be as a presidential candidate right now. 2, for example, my former friends in the Bush administration. I can think of 2 of them who are not supporting Donald Trump, and here's what I have to say to them. If you were alive and breathing enough to get an appointment in a Republican administration, you should obviously know all of the foibles of Bill Clinton's administration, Hillary care, the health care problems, selling our nuclear secrets to China, destabilizing world security, etc. You cannot possibly have had one of those positions and not understand the liabilities of the Clintons. And so it is unacceptable to support someone like Hillary Clinton simply based on her record as Secretary of State.
That may be true.
However,
that may be true.
This
is my
suggestion as a former Bush administration appointee. In my opinion about my former colleagues, one or two of them who might not be supporting Donald Trump. Lastly, here's what we do know about Donald Trump. We know who he's planning to support to the, nominate to the Supreme Court.
The question
we
is,
know he's a
why
good
are
manager.
the Republicans not jumping on board, Nicolee?
It's very few.
They're not,
extremely
Casey, they're not
Nicolee.
because of one thing called patriotism. And some Republicans, thankfully, still feel it's more important to protect the security of this country than
Which
blindly
is
vote
why
for an
you cannot
unqualified
possibly
candidate.
support someone like Hillary Clinton.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Nicolee,
And Donald Trump
Phil,
is going to sell us out to
I want to go to
Putin.
Phil right now because Phil, you've been an early supporter of Mr. Trump. You've been enthusiastic about Mr. Trump from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
But is it unrealistic to think that he's going to win?
Well, look, I've been thinking it the entire time, so no, it's not unrealistic. He's going to win. And you can see that Republicans are jumping on board when you look at all these numbers increasing substantially. Number one, the momentum is with the Republican Party. It's difficult to win 3 elections in a row, which is why the Democrats are going to have difficulty doing it in the first place. Number two, these rising leads are starting to reflect what was there the entire time. When you have a candidate where you have knockoff hats being made like his, and they're saying, let's make everything great again, that's his slogan, of course that's ticket to victory.
All right, so Rich, now we're going to go to you.
Well,
Give us a perspective, because there's a lot to talk about.
there is.
Is Nicolee right? Momentum in Trump's favor?
There's some temporary momentum because I think Hillary Clinton's had a very bad week. But the important thing is if you still look at the electoral vote counts, she still has an edge. And I think she's still very likely to win this. She's quite capable of coming back. Everything's razor thin in a lot of these swing states, and the polls are moving up and down pretty regularly. Now, one thing that I just have to come back to that Nicolee said, when you have Republicans like Colin Powell, when you have governors like Larry Hogan, who are not supporting, the whole Bush family and a lot of their friends are not supporting this nominee. And if you look at the polls, there's a much higher percentage of Republicans not supporting Trump than there are Democrats not supporting Hillary. And if you look at independents, she's still winning. She's still winning huge majorities in all the minority groups, as you might expect from the way Trump's been almost trying to alienate them. And if you look at a lot of the key demographics among women, among college educated,
Right.
So
I think she's in a very good
let-
position fundamentally. She's had a bad week.
So Nicolee, why aren't the Republicans supporting
So
Trump?
no, here's the real question. You were talking about numbers. The real reason for Trump's success is if you look at basically all of the swing states. We were looking at these numbers for folks at home. If you look at every single swing state with the exception of Iowa and Colorado, they have negative income growth since 2008. People like that understand Trump's message, and he is very appealing to them. They'd like a
Unless
job.
they have a college degree.
They'd like to feel safe. They
Right.
would like to have America in our federal system.
All
That's
very
other-
good reasons
But
to
that-
vote for
no.
Hillary Clinton, by the way.
But what? It's
Please
gonna
explain
Your
that.
nationalize your health care?
comment says that people who don't have a college degree don't understand the needs of the country.
I'm
That's
pointing out the fact
that
You
that
didn't
there
let him
is-
finish,
that
Casey.
typifies the
That's
attitude
No,
of the
you
Democratic
are
Party.
putting words in my mouth. Let me
Casey's right.
explain the
That's
comment.
a line of attack
No.
that's been used
Let me-
over and over
let me
again,
make it
and
clear.
it has failed.
And I don't want
It
you
has
putting
only
words
made
in my
Donald
mouth
Trump
either.
Let him
Hold on, Phil,
finish.
Let me finish
please.
and don't
This
talk
ties
over.
right into the deplorable comment.
Well, when you talk about, are you saying white supremacists are not deplorable?
No,
Is that
Rich,
your
what
position?
we're talking about you're saying that all of Mr. Trump's supporters are
No.
deplorable.
No,
let
that
me
is not what I
finish.
said.
Casey,
That they're racist. They're
I never
homophobic,
said all.
That there is
You're again
they're-
putting
and-
words in my mouth, Casey. Let me
Casey,
answer the
you
question.
Answer
She
the
said
question.
basket of deplorables.
And there was another
I was the
part
first
to her
person
One
to put in the
question at a
basket.
time here. One
I've been
question at a
deplorable
time.
for a long time.
First, on
Tell
the
me I'm
college educated,
deplorable.
it is very clear she's got a historic advantage among men and women with college degrees, very much unlike the Mitt Romney race where he had an advantage.
Historically, Republicans have had that
right.
category.
And this is
you
very
aren't
interesting
letting-
that Hillary Clinton's winning among that demographic. That is what I said. As to the deplorables, Hillary Clinton is absolutely right. There is a not all, not most. There is a cohort
Thank you,
of
Rich.
there is a
You gotta
cohort
wrap it
of
up. You gotta
white
wrap it up.
supremacists that
Okay,
are backing
yeah.
this candidate that
We're
are
coming to
deplorable.
Deplorables right
There we
here.
go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They are deplorable. White supremacists are deplorable. You heard me say it. I'll stick to it. I'll defend
Really?
it. White
White
supremacists are
supremacists-
deplorable.
He's a white
I didn't know I'm a white
supremacist.
supremacist now, too.
I never said that.
Wow.
I
Rest
never
of
said that.
her
Hold on.
sentence
Did
was
I say
forgotten.
all Trump supporters? Did I?
No.
Did I?
Basket
No.
of deplorables.
Thank
on,
you.
Basket
guys.
all.
Did I say all?
Let's just finish this thought. What happened?
Thank you.
We're not going to finish the thought.
The rest of her sentence was, along with a lot of people who are frustrated at the way our country is going.
Thank you.
That was the rest of her
Good try,
sentence.
Republicans,
Thank
but
you,
you
Susan.
did not say what you said.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Park. We got to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the term limit vote in November, and is it going to pass? Are everybody as angry as we are? All right, I'm ready. Welcome back. While everyone was still on summer recess, the political energizer bunny known as Robin Ficker achieved the first step in placing his term limit ballot initiative before the voters this November when the Montgomery County Board of Elections certified the signatures on the ballot proposal. Ficker is quoted as saying that he has been successful placing 20 out of 25 initiatives before the voters. That's pretty incredible. All right, this past Thursday, a hearing was held by Montgomery County Judge Robert Greenberg in a lawsuit brought by former Rockville City Council member Tom Moore, questioning the validity of the signatures. And according to Bethesda Magazines, the judge indicated he's likely to rule that the signatures appear to be properly validated. Rich, how big a deal is this? This term limit initiative has been placed before the voters before and been rejected before. What's going to be different this time?
I'm going to boldly predict it is going to be different this time. I think it's going to pass, and it's not going to be close. And I think two things have changed. One is this bill allows, or this proposal allows, one extra term. Last time it was rejected, it was 2 terms, I believe.
And this
allows 3. So it's a little bit, you can allow people to stay in a little bit longer, get experience, all that. But the second thing is I think voters in this county and around the country have just gotten more and more fed up with this kind of entitled political class that in both parties I think is too entrenched, and I think a lot of voters are going to conclude that, and I think we're going to have a lot of new seats on the county council and the county executive's office as a result.
All right, Phil, if the term limit proposal passes, as Rich just pointed, 5 sitting council members, Roger Berliner, Mark Elrich, Nancy Florine, George Leventhal, and Nancy Navarro, would not be able to run for re-election. But big deal. In a county that is overwhelmingly Democratic majority of voters, won't these lawmakers be replaced by other Democratic members who are just like the people that are being replaced? So what?
Initially, yes, but I'll give you an example of what's happened on a little larger level, state of Florida. The state of Florida this day still has a majority Democrat voter registration. However, since the mid-90s, Republicans have controlled both houses, and they've also continued to elect the governor. And so what that tells you is it's very difficult to build a power base when you don't have a lot of time to stay in. But secondly, a lot of voters who don't vote, people that say, my vote doesn't matter, they're now going to say, you know what, I have a chance to influence the process, and so this will be very helpful.
Well, I think this is just going to be more of the same, more of the same. What do you think, Susan?
You said earlier, though, about the political elite. Tom Moore is out there pretty much on his own. Leading this. There isn't a lot of enthusiasm one way or another in terms of the leadership. And I must say Robin Ficker is out there to get his media at the hearing last week, which he fought very hard to be a part of the conversation. He arrived 2 hours late. Wait a minute.
Let's talk about the initiative,
no,
Susan.
No, part of it is
ignore the person. Let's talk about the initiative.
No. He's trying to inflate his ego, and he thinks, I think, that if these people get defeated, or if this wins and they won't be on, that he or one of his kids might be on the council, and it isn't going to happen. There may be a Republican somewhere getting elected. One of them is not so bad.
Montgomery County is being driven into the ground by a one-party rule. It's a monopoly, folks. Guess what? If you look at states that have term limits, they do great. They have new blood. They have great Republicans, great Democrats, people of all stripes rising up and having a chance at participating in our system of government. Like, what's wrong with allowing new blood in?
And Susan,
whichever party.
I want to hear from Rich on this.
There's not much wrong with new blood. In fact, I think there's a lot of good things about new blood, and I think it's not good in a one-party state in either party to have one set of people there too long. I think they get too caught up in themselves. There's kind of a moral hazard of having everybody kind of treat you as an elected official long enough, you start to actually read and believe your own press releases, which is
And
a hazard, an occupational hazard, right? And it happens in both parties. But frankly, in local government, a lot of the issues they face, good schools, good roads, balancing a budget, they're not really partisan. This is local government, folks, and I think you're going to have some new people coming in. I think that's probably a good thing for Montgomery County,
I think
regardless of
what
which
I think
party.
is
But
going
I think
to
it's going
happen
to
is
remain
I think a lot of state legislative types may be moving up to the county council. So across the way,
what I'd like to see is new people come onto the county council, maybe who have run a business.
You know what
That's
happens?
diversity.
Oh, I think
we don't have any.
Rich, here's what happens.
Private
Except
sector
Sid.
experience.
When you have one party rule, there is political mindthink. They all think the same.
Groupthink, small
There's
group.
a groupthink. You need alternative voices
You need
there.
diversity of opinion, diversity of
you
experience. We can't afford in either party to have local or state or federal governments filled with people who've done nothing but work in politics their whole lives, because they get very divorced from reality.
But
I
look
think
look at your favorite topic, transportation.
Yeah.
Transportation gets stifled because one party is so pro-environmental and anti-development that
No,
nothing
that
gets
is-
done.
that's not the
There's
issue.
another party that's so averse to any taxes or fees that they kept the gas tax below what it was in 1950 for 30 years. So there was no revenue for transportation. You can't blame this on
Even
one party or
Governor
another.
Hogan
I
is
can't
against
say I'm
it.
not
And
blaming
then the
on
other
one
party is averse to managing the money that they have wisely and planning
we
for
could-
the future. So
I haven't
That's
found
another-
yet a
Talk
perfect
about
party.
increasing
So
the
if you
taxes.
find one, Phil,
Yeah, and it's
sign me
certainly-
up.
yeah.
But
Well,
I'll take where the Democrats are right now.
It's very exciting that
in
this
county.
initiative is on the ballot, and despite Susan thinking it's just a play by Robin Ficker to get attention, the voters
is some of that.
voters are going to like this. The voters are going to like the initiative, Susan,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to make it pass. So we're going to find
You
out
might
what
be right.
we're going to find out what happened. All right. On to our final topic tonight, Thursday. This past Thursday, in a story on lawmakers' response to a report by local police on the growing gang problem in the D.C. suburbs, WMAL radio reporter Steve Burns quoted Montgomery County Council member Roger Berliner as saying, "I don't know how we're going to deal with this. I know we're all struggling with that phenomenon. This is new for us." Rich, according to WTTG television, in this past June, Montgomery County Police Chief Tom Manger told the council that his department was facing a surge in gang-related crime and homicides after gang-related murders quadrupled over the previous years. In addition, there were stories in 2014, 2015 on the same topic. So why are leaders like Mr. Berliner just coming to the party and realizing that there is a problem?
What we were just talking about sometimes people get out of touch when, anyway. No, but I think there's been a gang problem in Montgomery County schools that's been apparent. Tom Manger's been talking about it, actually, our police chief, for quite some time. There have been some, I think, very effective anti-gang initiatives. I don't think we've taken this seriously enough as a community. I think we need to probably put a lot more thought and resources into how we respond. Frankly, I'm surprised that they're surprised, because it's not a surprise to me. Having kids in this public school system, there is a gang problem. It's not out of control. We're still a much safer community than most, but Montgomery County can do better in this area than we have done. I think it's maybe a call to action here, but it should have been heard before.
Look, in 2008, I had the Assistant State's Attorney Jeffrey Winter, who was the gang prosecutor, on this show talking about this issue after he had a paper published in the American University Law Journal. So this is not a new phenomena as suggested by Mr. Berliner. But Susan, there are those that suggest that the surge in undocumented minors across the border is partially responsible for the uptick in the gang violence. Now, if that's the case, then should Montgomery County change its policy toward accepting additional border kids, or we should adopt a different approach, as Alexandria Mayor Allison Silberberg suggests. It's necessary to take a broad-based approach involving police, school counselors, and youth organization leaders, which, as Silberberg points out, we found it to be really effective.
That already is being done right here, the Collaboration Council. It's the school system, it's the police, it's the rec department, and HHS. I think Mr. Berliner might have been slightly misquoted. I think what he was talking about is he didn't know what we should do, but a lot is being done. And when you talked about the number that quadrupled, it was 2 murders versus 8. So we're not talking in the dozens of murders here.
Well, if you're one of the 8, it's
yes,
a big deal,
but
Susan.
what's happening is that mostly it's Hispanic on Hispanic. It is. There are a lot of issues when people come to the.
So it's okay for Hispanics to
no,
kill Hispanics?
well, let me finish. Okay, when people come to this country, if they're here, we put them in school. Some of them, and they're being sent here because their parents don't know what to do. It's so desperate. So they come here, and one of the issues that the police has found out is that you may sponsor your nephew, but if your life is, a little bit on the edge, and something happens and you can't afford that child, those kids end up out on the street. And what's really the interesting phenomenon here is these gangs are beginning to become multiracial. So before it used to be black gangs and Hispanic gangs or Latino gangs, and now they're getting together. The police, in all honesty, are feeling better that they are getting their hands around the problem. And they're more upbeat than I've known in a long time.
But Susan, if you're willing to address the social issues, why don't we address one of the fundamental issues, is whether or not our community should accept more and more of these undocumented aliens into our neighborhoods.
Because they are being sponsored by families.
In 2014,
and it's a big leap.
In 2014, when Martin O'Malley was governor, Maryland was known as the state that was open arms for all undocumented aliens.
But many of them came because they had family members. And the thing is that this is the reason why immigration needs to be changed. And also, in the one murder that you alluded to, the person had come back twice. You said there was one earlier in Gaithersburg. The problem, there are 2 things that I think need to be done. One, I think the judicial system needs to be a little stricter with them. They give them time served anger management training. I think if there were a stronger hit from the Judicial Committee, and also the police need more resources on simple things like analysts who can analyze all this stuff, and they're woefully
short. What's there to analyze? If you commit a violent crime, put them under the jail. If they're here illegally, take them back to where they came from.
And they come back.
It's easy. They won't come back if you do those 2 things. And those are things that we absolutely refuse to do.
Please don't fall into this trap, folks, in this discussion. When you're talking about violent crime and gang activity, it's not all an immigrant problem. A piece of it is not the whole picture. There's a lot of people born right here in the USA engaging in that activity. And if you look at the crime statistics, a very small fraction of it's committed by immigrants of all kinds.
Another part of this is the lack of concern for another human being's life. With the violence on television and video games, and when you have a presidential case person that says Hispanics are murderers and rapists, and you hear these things, it eventually gets to you.
I hear this and I'm thinking, I'm listening to West Side Story. Officer Krupke, you've done it again. Come on. We've got to enforce our laws, and we have to recognize.
And they are enforcing the laws. They're arresting them. They get arrested, but there is.
And then they let them go.
The fact
so you kill someone, you're in jail, and then ICE lets you go?
No.
Back onto our streets instead of
that doesn't happen.
ICE deports you.
That's unacceptable.
ICE deports you.
They are letting them go.
We got to wrap this up. Rich, take us to the break.
This isn't an either-or thing. Of course, we can enforce laws better than we do, and of course, we can learn from communities like Alexandria. If they have a program that works, we should be looking at it. Montgomery County should be looking at best practices everywhere else, and we should be pursuing. We can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. We can have good outreach to prevent this and enforce the law.
And more people are going back to Mexico than coming here now.
Well, we'll find out.
It's the truth.
It's pretty simple.
I love it. Susan, I'd like to have the final word here. Thank you.
Never.
Stay tuned for Parting Shots. All right. Welcome back. Now with Parting Shots, Rich Parsons.
Well, among the favorite things of this time of year is, the playoff season starts in baseball, and we get the start of football season. We also have that reality check when we all come back from summer vacation and face the traffic problems in this region. I'm very happy to know that in about a week you're going to be hearing a lot more about a major forward-looking proposal to tackle one of the biggest problems we have in this region, which is the whole 270 corridor. And stay tuned. Next week there's going to be some news on that.
Thank you, Rich. Phil.
On September 1st of this year, Amtrak, America's Railroad, entered a new era with the selection of Charles Wick Moorman, the former CEO of the Norfolk Southern, as Amtrak's new CEO. So we're looking forward to seeing a lot of great things from him to continue building what has been done and make transportation great again.
Nicolee.
Wanted to give a shout out and congratulations to Montgomery County, Maryland's own Dave Bossie. Dave has in the past served as president of Citizens United, was elected Maryland's National Committee man this spring, and just recently became Donald Trump's deputy campaign manager. So with Dave Bossie and Kellyanne Conway, I am so impressed with this team, and go Maryland representation.
Thank you. Susan.
I'm going to keep it short. Buses in early October are going to be commuting from Tobytown in Potomac to Rockville. And they're going to go to Wooten High School, to Frost Middle School, and to a lot of other places. It's an area that has long deserved public transit, and at last it's coming. Kudos to Montgomery County for finally realizing there was a need, and it's going to be handled.
Thank you, Susan. And I want to thank the panel. We had a lively discussion tonight. Everybody had their sparring gloves on. And I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aikens.